I'll go first. I'm Andrea Dawson. We've been married for 22 years
Yeah,
now. We're
22
going on
years.
23. We've known each other actually for 28 years now.
Hmm.
So the majority of our life we've been in each other's lives. We have two kids, two teenage daughters, a dog.
Yeah, I'm Matt Dawson, husband over here. Just what she said, we've known each other for almost 3 decades. And since we were kids, honestly, we're growing old together.
Mhm.
It is, but we are definitely growing old together. So it's great.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm actually going to ask you guys, I think that your guys' story of how you guys met is the most amazing, just a beautiful experience. I love how Matt describes how when he first laid eyes on his lady. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. Could you just share that experience and how you first met and what was going on in your mind when you saw her?
Yes, yes. I was working with people with disabilities, and we would take them around San Diego County to teach them how to shop, use money, just kind of be a citizen out there. And so we take the bus everywhere we go. And so this day we decided to go to UTC, which is a mall over here in La Jolla. And we were on the bus, and I had a gentleman with me who likes to talk to all the pretty girls on the bus because he's the Romeo like that. And we were sitting on the bus, and then Andrea gets on the bus, and I was reading a book, and I was reading Waiting to Exhale, but I had a book cover over it because I didn't want anyone to see me reading it. And then so she walked on the bus, and I guess she was running late, so she had wet hair, and that's pretty much what got me was the wet hair. She sat down and it was like draped over the chair or whatever, and I was just like, man, she is cute. And it turned out she got off on the same stop we did. So that was an extra bonus. So I was able to converse with her a little bit throughout the day. And the gentleman I had with me, he actually went up to her and tried to get her number. And she thought I sent him over there to do that. So I had to go out over there and put out that fire. And then during the day, we just did our own thing. And then I told myself I can't leave this mall without like going back and trying to get her number, because I wasn't really like that type of person that just like asked to girl her number like right away. But this one I had to do. So I stewed over my Taco Bell. I didn't really eat much. And then by the time we left at 1 o'clock, I went and did that, and she gave it up. So gave up the number.
She gave up.
I gave him my number.
Right.
Yeah, and I was new to San Diego, so I didn't have any friends. I mean, I had a lot of family, a lot of like, I'm the oldest like cousin, so it was nice to be able to have someone to hang out with that was closer to my age. And then, it took us a few months to go on our first date. I think it took us, 3 months,
Mhm.
about 3 months. And of course, being from a typical Mexican family, every time he asked me on a date, I'm like, let's take my cousins. And he's like, well, I just want to go out with you. So it took us a while to coordinate. We finally went out 3 months later after talking on the phone for a few months. And on our first date, went to Horton Plaza, which is not around anymore, but went to see a movie. And of course, kind of we are we like humor. We're kind of we
I'm a
like to be
jokester.
funny and light. And so the very first movie we went to see was Dumb and Dumber. That was our very first date. And before our date was over, he said he was going to marry me, and I just was like, "You're crazy. Who says that on a first
And I
date?"
don't say that. That's not like a line I use. It just came out. And I
Yeah,
was just
and
like, this person is the one, like for sure.
I think 6 years later,
Yeah, 6 years of off and on. It wasn't like bliss from that moment on.
we were young.
We were young,
Mhm.
and I just moved here from the Bay Area, so I was living with college guys, and I was 19. So it was, yeah, it was a little bit here and there, but it was always meant to be because we persevered through all that.
Yeah, 6 years later, we
Absolutely.
had not.
And that's beautiful. I love that. And I think that that's such a testament to even the scripture. So we know that the scripture says that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. And so he found you, he pursued you, he knew that you were the one. And that is just so beautiful to see that happening now, that, you know, it wasn't the opposite. It was, he was finding his wife, he found his wife. And that's such a blessing. And I do believe that even that bit has helped even to see where you guys are now. Like, he found his woman, he knew that she was the one for him, and he was like, no, I'm keeping her till death do us part, I'm keeping her, this is it. He found his wife. So that's awesome, that's beautiful, and I love the details. See, that's how you know love is just all in this story, because the details have just blown me away with their love story. The details of her wet hair, and, you know, just every detail is just mind blowing how in love they are. And so I love that we're able to see that, because when we get into, which we're going to in just a second, but when we get into how things kind of went for a spiral for you guys, it's so amazing to see where you are right now, even before we even talk about the details, right? And so it's just a testament to what God will do. He absolutely will help if you ask him, and he will send you to the right help. And let's get started in talking about that. So
Okay.
what brought you guys to start working with me? What were you going through in your marriage?
We were going through a really tough season.
Yeah.
We actually, you know, we've been together for so long, since we were young, teenagers, and we've been married for a very long time. And both of us knew that, you know, divorce, when we got married, we always said to each other, divorce is not an option. You know, when we're married, we're together. But we hit a really rough season, and we decided through that season that we were going to try to make it work. I mean, I'm not going to say that divorce wasn't on the table. There was definitely there were some times when, you know, we felt, how are we going to get over this? Right? How are we going to get through this? So I really wanted to go through counseling. And the first thing I did was look up a counselor online, because that's what you do. You Google everything, right? So I looked for a counselor online. We found one that could accommodate our schedule. And so we started working with her. And, you know, she just didn't have the experience. She was not a Christian counselor. And it just wasn't, it was just felt very textbook like, the same questions, the same methods every session. And, you know, we were investing a lot in this. You know, it's an investment, and we wanted it to work, and we just didn't feel any results from the first counselor. So I went to the church, and I asked, they have a pastoral care, and I asked if they had anyone that they could recommend us to see. And they did recommend a Christian counselor. And she was better. She definitely had a more, you know, biblical approach, but it wasn't, we just still didn't feel the connection. And so through all of this, I had been, for some reason on my Spotify, honestly, the Spice Wives podcast came up. And I started listening to it. I would go on my walks, and it would be my time to listen to it. And even sometimes it would pop up in my car, you know, and sometimes it's not very appropriate when you have the family in the car. But, you know, I just was like consumed by it. And one of the episodes really hit me hard. And I just felt like God is putting Ashlyn in our lives. God is telling me to try to see Ashlyn. And at that time, Ashlyn, I don't think you were seeing people yet. I don't think you were doing counseling yet. But all of a sudden, the marriage maintenance program came up. And I was like, I'm applying for this. Like, I don't know how many thousands of people are going to apply for it. I'm going to apply for it. And, you know, hopefully Ashlyn will accept us. And I think we went in under the marriage maintenance program, and we kind of, you know, we did the assessment, but we were in a place in our marriage where we weren't ready for maintenance. We were in a rough place where we needed to be stripped of everything and just brought to our knees and just bring our marriage to the altar. And that's Ashlyn has just been a vessel for us. And that's kind of where we were. It's been a few months now, and I think we've made a complete turnaround. I mean, we are more in love than we've ever been, which is really crazy. You know, you think after so many years, it's not possible, but that's a testimony to God. Because through all of it, through everything that we've been to, and, you know, the world around us telling us that divorce is okay, and that if it's too hard, you can divorce, you know, you can get a divorce. And so for us fighting through that and being more in love than ever is just such a testimony to God.
Yeah, amen. That's right.
So what it was like starting before working with you, it was dark, like
Mm,
really dark. And I'm not the type of person that I don't talk, like I don't express my feelings. You know, it took me 20 something years to express them to her a little bit, and she still didn't. Now she does, but before this didn't know like what I was really like, what was in my mind. So I did not, I was always hesitant to speak to a or I don't know,
Counselor.
a counselor. You know, there's so many names for them. You get the stereotypes of that. You know, I was like, well, this is we're gonna get some female that hates men, and I'm not gonna have a chance, right? So I did not, and I even spoke to a couple male
Therapist.
therapists by myself, and one of them it didn't really go very far because he was looking for some type of childhood trauma to heal before he could figure out what was wrong with me. But honestly, I didn't feel like I really had any like deep childhood trauma that I needed to work through. So I wasn't keen at all on talking to anybody. I was almost telling her, like I even said it, I said, I don't need anybody to talk to, you do. Which was totally wrong, by the way. But so I was hesitant, and I was like not forced, but I knew that I needed to like put my reservations aside and actually come into it with an open mind, because otherwise it wouldn't work if I was shut down, and I could shut down really easy. So I was open to the fact. And we went through a couple of them first, and like she said, we didn't
Connect.
connect, or we didn't vibe, or it just wasn't there. It did feel very textbook, like reading and the answers back to us, and so that's what it was like before that. And now we're here, so
and
I
that's
mean,
a blessing. Go ahead.
I will say that the most difficult part, obviously, for me as a female and the wife, like sharing my feelings is just natural. It's just normal. And so I will say that for Matt, it was very uncomfortable. It was a very uncomfortable space for him to be in. But through God, honestly, finding Ashlyn, it's just finding the right vessel for God to work through, to open him up, to be open to it, and really to listen and be, you know, have a soft heart for it, right? And to come in just prepared to just listen and take it in. Like, this doesn't have to start a lot with a lot of talking. It has to start with a lot of listening, right? On both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to see the transformation. I remember when we first started our very first session. I remember, Matt, where you kind of was just like not feeling it, kind of over it, kind of like
and I
halfway
was
in
in
the
a different
camera.
different mindset too. So I was like shut down already and just in darkness. So I was, yeah, I wasn't into it.
Yeah, and I just love that. I love to see the transformation in you guys being able to open up. And we have gone very deep in our sessions. Would you say that we've really tackled some root things in
Yes.
your guys' situation?
Yes, and I have to say, like, I wasn't into it in the beginning, but I understood the power that you had to help us, and I understood, like, you seemed to be right with us as we were speaking. You were already like ahead of what we were talking about, and you were able to apply it to scripture. And it just seemed like you knew us before, like we knew each other before we met you. Basically, it was like that comfortable. So after the first session, it was like I was like looking forward to Sundays. I think we started on Sundays. Was it Sundays? or Tuesdays. I don't know what it was. Anyway, I was looking forward to that next session. So I was
Right.
like pins and needles for 6
I mean, it
days
was,
waiting
yeah,
for
a
that
complete
next.
turnaround, because before he was dreading them, right? Before it was like, oh, we have a session tonight, to like, how many days, how many days, how many days, because of the breakthrough that it was making in our marriage, and the fact that it really was taking down those walls of like, that the world had really fooled us in thinking that we needed, right? And just really opening each other up to God and to each other again.
Yeah.
And for the root causes, I mean, you were able to extract them out, and us being open-minded, we're able to, convey those to you. So, communication, um, staying in the moment, love, God. I mean, those were like some of the root things that you were able to pull out of us, or out of me at least, especially
Awesome.
the God part.
Awesome. Wow. Glory to God. That is both encouraging, and I just give so much glory to God for that, because it truly comes from him. And you were talking about, you said the word breakthrough. So if you could like pinpoint, what do you feel actually individually? Like what do you feel for you, Andrea? And then also for you, Matt, what do you feel was your personal biggest breakthrough so far in our sessions?
Um, I will say in the beginning, when I saw the transformation in Matt, that was what I thought was my breakthrough. I thought, okay, whew, like just the change in him and everything that I've been praying about for my husband to be, I was watching it happen in front of my very eyes. I mean, like being baptized, becoming a believer, like
Yeah.
all of that through our whole marriage. That was always my prayer for my husband to be saved, right? And so I thought that was my breakthrough. I thought that was the big pivotal moment for this terrible season that we were going through, this hard season, that I was going to be able to hold on to that and get through it. And that wasn't my big breakthrough, honestly. Happened, I don't know, maybe recent, right? I mean, after like 9 months of sessions, where finally I was able to just really let it go,
Yeah.
really let go and give it to God. After saying it and doing the lip service and I kept saying it, but I wasn't really doing it. I was saying it and not really living it. I was
Right.
holding on. It was like I was dragging it with me. But finally being able to just let it go and really honestly being delivered. That's what it
Yeah.
took. That was my breakthrough, being delivered from whatever was holding me back, that darkness, and really trusting in God and trusting that he has a plan. He has a plan for us. And really, honestly, since that moment of me letting go and hitting that breakthrough, it's been like
It
it's
has.
been like a dream. I mean,
Yes.
I know it sounds corny and it sounds like too good to be true, but I even asked him, like, is this real? Like,
Hmm.
it's real. Where
Hmm.
we're at right now, we're so in love, and we're just like the whole like butterflies in our stomachs and looking forward to being together and seeing each other. Like we're in that place again. And it feels good. It feels
Yeah.
good.
And I even remember that moment, not getting into any details because our sessions are absolutely confidential. But I remember in that one particular time of before that session before that breakthrough, I remember you guys coming and you were just like, nothing's gonna happen tonight. This is, we just know that this is it. This is it. We don't even want to have this session. Nothing's gonna be able to happen. And I remember telling you guys, no, 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 because it's impossible for God to not work. It's impossible for Jesus not to show up and something changes. And instantly we dove into, no, we are not going to accept defeat. We're not, no matter how hard this season is. And I love how you said, even 9 months in, because it shows a testimony of consistency. keep on going. Don't give up. The scripture tells us that in due time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And look, what a testimony to that, of refusing to give up and having somebody to even hold you guys accountable, to say, no, 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 we're not. This is not the end. You guys are not going to give up right now. Community and even counseling, coaching, that is so helpful when you have that in Jesus. He can lead you through out of this dark season. So I love how you said that. So what about you, Matt? What do you feel was your personal breakthrough?
My personal breakthrough was my relationship with Jesus Christ, basically. I've always been on the fence with it. I mean, our kids have always gone to Christian school. We've always went to church. Well, she went with the kids alone for a lot of years, and I didn't go because I just didn't feel it. So I would go occasionally, and it would tug on me a little bit, but I never really truly like opened myself up to God and His work. And through you, you really gave me that perspective on how good He is and how real He is, because we brought you up and down with us on our roller coaster. I mean, there were sessions like you mentioned that we were just, you could tell we were like tired, we weren't sleeping, we were just like hesitant, resistant. But after every session, we would hug and kiss each other and just be like, wow, that was just insane and incredible. And this woman is a true vessel. She said that word already a few times, and it's true. I mean, so my breakthrough was my relationship with Christ. I asked Him to be my Lord and Savior. I got baptized and shocked her, and I just did it because I thought it was time, and it helped me like feel closer to Him. So since then, and during all these 9 months, I have like this extraordinary relationship where I can actually run to Him. I can put stuff at His feet, and really pray. And all the praying I'm doing, it came true with what I was praying for her, to see clarity, and for us, and for you to give us words of wisdom and make us see things. And so that's been my breakthrough, is the relationship with God, and having you walk us through it and not be daunted by our issues, because we came to you with some heavy stuff. And some days we were light as feathers, some days we weren't. But you were able to sift through all that and still say the right things to give us goosebumps most sessions, like you would say stuff and it's like, wait, what? Or I would say something and then you would say, wait, stop. Don't say that, don't say this one, refer to her as this, or you would just correct me. And usually I'm hesitant on that type of thing, but I was just like, bring it to me, like tell me what I need to do, because I honestly, truthfully, like believe in what you have to say. So big breakthrough is relationship with God and meeting Him, basically.
And some people take correction and they confuse it with condemnation. Like somebody will be trying to help them, somebody will be trying to say, well, don't say it that way, say it this way. And they totally reject it because they feel condemned. In all honesty, did you guys ever for any moment feel judged or condemned in our sessions at all?
From you? No.
Yeah.
No, from myself, yes, but you taught me how to not fall for that and cast that out. So yeah, no, from you, not at all. I mean, you were upfront from the very beginning about that. And nothing you say is cliche. Nothing you say makes me feel like, oh, she's just reading her college textbook or whatever. I know that yeah. So I don't feel judged.
I think for me, the corrections actually helped with the understanding. When Matt would say something, and if you stopped and said, wait a minute, like, let's clarify what you're really trying to say, Matt,
Yeah.
right? Let's clarify, because I hear it one way, and that's the way I'm going to like digest it. That's the way I'm going to think that's what I think he's saying to me, right? And so you're like, Matt, what are you really trying to say to her? And by stopping and correcting and teaching us like those communication skills, I think we are better equipped to understand each other, and really like slower to take what somebody is saying without trying to understand where they're coming from, right? Without trying to understand like, okay, he wasn't trying to attack me. That's coming from a place of love. And then saying, okay, wait, babe, what are you trying to say? Like,
Yes.
what does that mean? Where's that coming from? So I think like that really, the correction really wasn't correction. It was more of trying to help us understand each other in our communication to each other.
Right. Yeah. And that's key. That's key for every relationship. And it's so true that no matter, a matter of fact, I think I'm going to title this interview, Divorce Does Not Have to Be the Answer, because every marriage can relate to that, that, oh my, not every marriage, but almost every marriage can say, no, we've had some hard times. We've had some hard times. And a lot of marriages can say, we almost had a divorce too. And so you guys are a testimony to that yes, we were at our ends thinking that divorce was going to be, a possibility, but no, it does not have to be the answer. It doesn't have to be. And that can speak to every couple, whether they've been married for 30 years, 1 year, whether they've been married for 15 minutes, because they can get into an argument after the reception and want to just say we're done, right? So this is such a testament to the fact that you can overcome. And I'm just so thankful to be able to hear just the breakthrough that you guys had. So let me know, what do you guys think about the actual assessment? So you guys went through the assessment where you took a test. It was like 35, 40 minutes each. And so this test is not anything that I created. I actually purchased the access to the training to this assessment. And so it's a third party assessment that I take it and I kind of dissect it a bit, and I add in scriptures, and I put just some helpful things into the results so that it's more personal to you guys. And I meet with you and we go through a page or two at a time each session. Again, like you said, we kind of created our own program for you guys, which was totally fine because I believe in being flexible. So when we could get those results in during the days that, some days it was like, no, we need a session of intervention. And then other days it was like, this is a good week. Let's go ahead and go through the assessment. How do you guys think that the results were on that assessment?
Well, first, I feel like, I don't know if we were maybe the pioneers of that assessment, but we took it once. And when we first took the assessment, we were not in a good place. And I'm kind of a skeptic anyway. So I was just kind of like, what is this? So I was just looking at this. I'm like, 6 pages? Like, how many questions does this thing have? And there was 2 parts to it. So you had all these questions, and then there was yet another section where you were like writing, and I'm just like, what? And I'm being hesitant, closed-minded, and all that. So we took that, and the results were what they were, but we wanted to actually requested to maybe take it again because we were starting to figure a few things out, and that drastically helped, and it actually changed like some my answers at least. I think yours may have been the same or whatever. But I think to answer your question, I got a lot out of it. It showed me some things about myself that I could never pinpoint, and I didn't even really know because it wasn't like spelled out for me, right? Sometimes men in their own head, they think they have it all figured out and they don't need any help from anybody. You don't ask directions. You don't need help. You don't need to tell me who I am. I know who I am. But however, you told me, well, not you, but the assessment told me who I was, and it helped me relate that to how I spoke to her and how, it just helped overall.
Yeah, I think it definitely, even after being married for so long, you think we thought we knew each other. But I think it really opened our eyes to how we communicate with each other and how we take that communication from each other as well, like not misconstruing what Matt is saying to me and just taking it for face value, right? Not taking it personally. It wasn't an attack. That's just how he communicates, and really understanding each other's personalities, I think, was really important and really key. And I think that's one of the things that the assessment helped us with. Just I'm very controlling. That's one of the things that came out of the assessment. And I think both of us knew I was controlling, but I always was like, yeah, I'm the submissive wife. Well, really, was I? You know,
That's
you
good.
know.
Yeah.
So I think the assessment really helped highlight strengths and weaknesses in our marriage, and really helped us focus on those weaknesses and improve that communication with each other. And I think we were lucky enough, I think, like Matt said, as kind of the pilot program, where we took it twice. And really, we took it at the beginning when we first met Ashlyn, because we thought we were coming into marriage maintenance, but we were not ready for marriage maintenance. And so we took it again when we were in a better place. And I think when we took it that second time, the answers were more honest. They were more from the heart. We were more invested, because the first time we took it, we were kind of going through the motions. We still had that feeling that, is this marriage going to work? Is all of this worth it? And so once we took it that second time, our answers really came from our heart, because we really knew that this is what we wanted. This is, God gave us this covenant, and we wanted to like persevere through this trial and really work on whatever God was giving us, the tools that God was giving us. And I really think that Ashlyn, being the vessel, was given to us by God, because in all honesty, I don't know if our marriage would have survived.
And that was the whole thing. We came into this was looking for tools
Mhm.
to help us. We don't even know how to deal with this. We need tools.
Yeah.
We can't deal with this. So
Yeah.
the tools is what we were really looking for, and we were provided with the tools early. Not all of them. They're kind of, as each session goes, we learn more tools, so to speak. But we were provided with enough early on to really implement those, and that the assessment was one of those tools to show us who we are as people.
Mhm.
I would say it's so important to just be honest when you're answering the assessment. Just be honest. There's no judgment. It's just a tool to really help you see how you communicate, how your spouse communicates, and how you can work together through some of those difficult things. Whether you've been married for 20 plus years, like we have been, we still learn new things about each other. Or whether you're a newlywed, then when you're a newlywed, it'll help you get through those first couple years. A little bit tough getting to know each other. It'll help you get through that, and help you learn how to communicate with each other and say, okay, well, that's how he will. If I can't say it this way, or I need to budge, I need to give a little bit more, be a little bit more compromising in certain situations, because that's just how it works.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and I feel like some of the questions were geared towards newlyweds, or people who've been married maybe just a few years or a couple years.
Mhm,
So we got through those questions because we've been married so long.
mhm.
Some of it was geared, I feel like, towards more the newlywed type. However, the rest of it is not all wasn't like that. Just a few questions. But other than that, yeah, it helped us.
But I
Yeah.
will I will add that we are feeling like newlyweds now.
Ah.
And we never had this rocky relationship our whole marriage. I mean, we always commented on how we never really had big blowouts, or spent the night somewhere else, or left, or anything like that. Both our parents were married. They're still married. And we wanted it to do like that, like marry once, not do it all over again. So we were always, it was smooth, but we got to a point where it was so smooth that we just kind of took each other for granted, and then that's when we started having our issues. So
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that transparency, because that is kind of how a lot of rocky situations begin, being able to admit that. And so thank you that right. So I want to ask you, if you were to take the assessment and get the results on your own without having a consultation with me to go over those results, do you believe that you would have understood it the way you do now on your own versus in doing it with me?
no, I would have just read the results and been like, okay. But you were able to break them down and, put them in the hierarchy of what was most important versus what wasn't. Or they're all important, but, 1 through 5 or whatever. And you were able to talk about each line item, so to speak, and then, go over it with us and have us relate to it. And if I didn't have that, then I just would have read the answers, and I don't know what I would got out of it. I mean, I would have just known like, oh, look at that, we're kind of compatible, but not really, you know. So yeah, it's needed. You need an advisor on that, I think. I
Yeah.
don't think it's something you can just take and like be happy with what you read.
I mean, there are like some spots where it does kind of break it down for you, but it's a lot of information, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of information, and you think you know yourself, and so you're reading this and you're like, oh, is that really, like, how did I answer this? What question was this, you know? And I think like being able to go through, like having a session where you're going through just 1 or 2 pages and really breaking it down and saying, okay, this is the part of the assessment. This is what it meant. This is, you know, read it and tell me, do you agree with it? Is that how you feel? You know, does that relate, or is that, you know, is that your personality? And being able to discuss it with each other, but also I think having Ashlyn break it down with us actually made us more receptive to listen to each other, right? Because I think if I would have read it and I would have said, see, it says this, like this is how you're supposed to communicate with me.
Yeah, and I would have been like, whoa,
Yeah.
like,
And so I think
controlling.
I feel like we needed that. We needed that kind of mediator, right? We needed that person to be the one to help us interpret it correctly, because we can read it one way and I could take it one way, but that's not even what it's saying, right? And so being able to discuss it with you and have questions and go through it, really understand how, you know, what makes each other tick, right? Like what makes us compatible, and how we can get through some of those incompatibilities, right? Some of those difficult issues that we may have had, and how to cope with them, and what works for each other.
Well, having us expand on the result was, you know, was key.
Eye-opening for
Was
sure.
key also because we were able to talk it through.
Mhm.
And then you would ask certain questions regarding that, and we would like pull a little bit more out. So it wasn't just the answer, line item, bullet item we saw. It was like way more with it because you were asking us, and then we were talking about it, and we're like, oh yeah, and then extracting. So yeah, definitely needed a mediator at that point.
And there were so
Any
many
mediator would
areas.
do.
What'd you say?
I said not any mediator would do. I mean, we would need someone. Anyone would need someone like you, honestly, to pull that out.
But also, I don't think that the assessment was like biblically based, right?
Right. No, I
And so
added the
having,
Bible to it.
yeah, so having, you know, you adding biblical basis to it, I think was key. It really was.
Yes. And there were so many areas to that assessment. Like it talked about your finances. We had a moment where we talked about budgets, you know, it talks about even sex. It talked about what the desires are. It talked about love, what you thought love was. It even got down to the nitty-gritty of just like who you would want to do certain things. Like, do you want him to take out the trash? Do you want her to wash the dishes? Like, and even after being married for so many years, those are things that you kind of just like, you know, I don't think that we really have that like figured out of what we expect. Not that it's supposed to be that way, but just what are our expectations after these all these years? Is it the same? Are we going to change it up? You know, so I thought that that was a little fun. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think.
Yeah, I mean that definitely was fun, and kind of seeing, actually for me it was a little bit eye-opening, kind of seeing like how unbalanced it was, you know, kind of like, okay, I need to step it up a little bit. You know, everything was Matt.
I'm the butler. It's okay.
The butler.
Mine's fine. I like to take care of my wife and my daughters, and you know, maybe too much. I guess I have to let them do little things. Not her, but my daughters do some things on their own, so they're not completely clueless as they enter the world.
Yeah. And you guys are definitely a great team, you know, aside from just this challenge, this season in your marriage, you know, because this is a major chapter that has enhanced the story. It's not the end of the story. You guys have just come so far. And you guys work so well as a team, you know, when it comes to your children, when it comes to talking about the difficult things, even when we got to the about talking about giving to church or giving of your time, whether it's finances or it's time, you guys work through that together. You talk about what's important to each other, and that is key. That is key. You have to be willing to do the work, just like you said, Matt, where you started off as being closed-minded and you realize like, oh, nope, I have to open up my mind. And that made a huge difference, I believe, for sure,
Yeah,
in our sessions.
that's how important it was to me to help this marriage was, I would doing us and myself a disservice if I wasn't coming into it like with everything.
Steadfast in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just your faith in that, you know, and that's what it is. It's all just an increase of faith. And so that, you know, in itself is a testimony. It really, really is.
My wife, she's the one that.
No, it's God.
God is
Yeah,
all through your
yes,
marriage.
yes,
He
God,
is.
my
He
wife.
is all through your marriage. And then in just wrapping up towards, you recommend to someone who might be on the fence of joining and signing up, you know, because there's, again, like you said, there's Google, and you can go and you can find anybody out there, and somebody who's like, should I go to try the marriage maintenance with Ashlyn, or maybe I should just try. Is somebody who's on the fence, or even somebody who feels like we've gotten too far. There's no point in signing up, or we're just going to give up. What would you tell them who's on the fence? Why would you encourage them? No, sign up.
Well, coming from me, I'm negative guy. Everything's the worst case scenario. I'm a skeptic. Um, I just feel like just me going through it and like absorbing it and recommending it to others. I feel that it's something that every couple, every male, every female should take, because it's not just the survey or the questions that you're answering, it's what you get out of it when they're explained to you and when they're put at you, and when you have someone actively listening to what you're saying and feeling what you're feeling with you, and they're picking up on that. And that they is Ashlyn. She's picking up on that, and she's just listening, and then she'll even stop and talk about it. So just that whole aspect of it, it's not just taking it and then leaving it. It's you're getting much more out of it. So I just would recommend it up and down, because it's not just that you're getting. You're getting the words and the translations and the intricacies of it. And it blew my mind, like every time we went over that session. And granted, there were times where we didn't have a session with Ashton where we actually talked about that. We were trying to, Mayday on our marriage, and we had to get through that. But then when we came back in a good place, we were able to knock it out. And I just feel like it was something that it helped me, and I would never say that a year ago. But it helped me, and it made me feel comfortable to actually talk about it, because I don't talk about my feelings. And I'm kind of like, a caveman sometimes, where I just don't want to like talk about that. Like no one needs to know that, especially a stranger. But she wasn't a stranger after the first visit. We really like felt a connection. So I recommend it.
That's
Um, I would say for a marriage that's maybe on the rocks, like hitting a tough season, give it a chance. Give it a chance. You have nothing left to lose.
yeah.
And just give it a chance. I would encourage anybody that's going through it, that's kind of throwing their hands up and saying like nothing is helping, but you haven't tried everything, right? So give it a chance. Go through the first few sessions, and I promise you, after the first few sessions, you're going to want to keep coming back, because you're learning so much. You're just being filled with not just what your marriage is needing or missing, but also you're being filled with the Holy Spirit. I mean, there is just such a huge presence when we're in these sessions, I mean, you can't help but feel the joy, and you just can't help but feel the Holy Spirit filling you up. And so I would just say, don't give up. Try one more thing. Try the marriage maintenance program. Give it a chance. I promise you, after the first few sessions, your mind's gonna be blown. Kind of how we were. I mean, we really didn't think that there was more to learn about each other after being together for so long, but there was so much that we were able to uncover, and so much that we were able to learn and focus on, right? And come out of, and in a biblical, basis, which I think is so important, right? Because there's so many secular things out there, so many secular tools, and and I think that's one of the issues, is that we have these secular tools, and the bottom line is always the choice to divorce.
Yeah.
And so I think when you have something like this, and you have a vessel like Ashlyn, who's just, God is working through her. I mean, it's been amazing to see, even to see Ashlyn grow with us. Just to give it a chance. Don't give up, because God has given you a covenant, and his plan is for your good. I mean, for our good. I mean, God doesn't make mistakes. So, and we really have learned that our marriage is such a blessing, and we are so thankful that we didn't walk away from it.
It's definitely work. It's not something that you can just sit down a session once a week and go through it. I mean, it's definitely work. And as she pointed out, outside of trying to like keep your marriage strong, if you go outside of that, all the help and this and that is like, oh, it's time for something new. Like, go find something new, divorce this, divorce that. But I wanted to find something new within what we already have, right? So when we look back on this in a few years, or even next year, we can call it as our whole time together. Like, we used to say, like a blade of grass or whatever, a blip in our timeline, to get over that. And we want to renew and strengthen that. We don't want to run away from it. So it's definitely work. You have to put it in. You have to take it for what it's worth, and study it and read it over again, and maybe write down. Like, I started journaling. I used to like to write as a youngster, but I started journaling more and writing on what the topics we talked about, and it helped me like figure it out. So the next session I was a little bit more prepared, and I wasn't just coming into it not thinking about it for the whole week, right? So it's definitely work, and you have to put it in. It's not easy, but it gets easier.
That's right.
So it's not hard the whole way. It gets a lot easier, and then you really start to see who your wife is, who your husband is, and what you guys have as togetherness and a relationship. So it's good.
That's right. Well, this has just been a major blessing, and I thank you guys so much for taking the time to share your heart, to be open, to encourage other couples, to really just be an example of what the work will bring you, to be an example of what it looks like to not give up. Just like you said, there are so many, just so much noise in the world that's telling you that the opposite of the Bible is okay to do.
Yeah.
And if we are to call ourselves believers, I just don't see how we can be okay with following the crowd, doing the opposite of the Bible. And you guys are a testimony of what will happen if you just give God a try, if you fight for your marriage. Like you said, it is a covenant. And so I am praying that everyone who watches this will be encouraged to stick with God, to stick out your marriage, to fight for it, to do the interchange. Because it's not about just trying to change your spouse. It's about doing the inner work. And when you change you, it just bubbles over into your spouse. and you both become a better person. And that is what we see as a testimony right here with you guys, with Matt and Andrea. And so I pray that everyone was blessed by this. Thank you so much again for taking your time out tonight to just encourage people to even give your honest review of me and my coaching, my counseling, whatever people want to call it, just us walking through getting the help together. I'm glad that you said yes to that and that you've trusted me. And I look forward to us having many more sessions, even if they're just maintenance. I mean, because would you say, like, just quickly, let's just end with this. Would you say, even if somebody feels like, oh, we are better now, is a tune up a good idea every now and then?
Yes, and I actually want to share my life and what we're going through with you because you have been here with us the whole time. So it wouldn't be fair to not give you some updates and give us some maintenance as well. We could say, oh, well, we kind of slipped a little bit, and then of course you have something to say about it and we take it in. So yeah, I wouldn't want it to stop because it just would be it would just fizzle. I just wouldn't feel right.
I think definitely there would be a void for us. And I think definitely, I mean, your car needs a maintenance every so many miles, right? And I think even for us, like I've said over and over again, we've been married for so many years. We thought we had the answers and we didn't. And we learned so much. And it's so important for that. You can fall into your old ways again, right? You can fall back into your old habits. And so having that tune up and having that like session once a month, once every 2 months, however, whatever point you get to, I think it's important to be able to bring up those things again and talk them through, right? And have like that heart-to-heart discussion where, okay, Andrea, like we already talked about this, you're falling back into that, and being accountable, being held accountable is so important. And we can do that for each other, but it also becomes, as a married couple, becomes a little bit of a nagging. So it's nice to have the maintenance, and the fallback of coming back to Ashlyn and just going through it again and saying, okay, here's some of the difficulties we had, or everything's great,
And we get to share it with you and get to know you. So having it through Zoom, it's not diminishing it at any time. It almost makes me want to like do this not over Zoom, like have an in-person one, because Zoom, it's not hindering anything over this. I mean, it's just like we're there with you in the same room, honestly.
Yeah.
So, some people may shy away from video because they don't like the way they look or whatever, but you have to put all that aside and you just go with it and you realize that you're almost in the same room with her or with us.
Yeah, there's definitely no awkwardness with it being a video conference. I mean, I feel like we still feel the very personal connection. It hasn't really hindered the sessions.
No, not at all. Yeah. I just had to say that.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. Thank you for pulling that out, because I didn't even think about that. But you're right. Some people might shy away. And when people are getting ready to go through a program or go through anything that's going to pull them closer to Jesus, the enemy is going to put every whisper in their head for every excuse possible. And so thank you for debunking that one, because it is true.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, all right, that is a wrap of our interview today. I pray that whoever watches this, that you guys are all really blessed by it, that you are encouraged, that you are motivated, and that you don't give up on your marriage. Don't give up. You can bounce back. You can, with God on your side. I'm here to help, but I want you to know that it is possible to revive your marriage, and God is with you and God will help you. So that is a wrap. Thank you guys so much. And everyone who is watching, you have a great night, if it's night or day, but thank you. And something that I say to the ladies is always stay spiced, but we're together. I got to figure out something to say.
You can say something to men. We can say spice, can't we? Oh no.
I mean, you guys have been spiced. You guys are pretty spiced.
Actually. Oh yeah. Don't be hesitant to check out Ashlyn's website either. It definitely helped us keep it spicy.
Right. When you said that it was inappropriate, it was holy, but it's not appropriate for children.
Yes.
listeners around listening to that. We are growing in God, but growing very much in our intimacy as well. So thank you for that very much. All right. So you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next time.